There is something happening right now that most people will never understand. And it has nothing to do with prayer the way you were taught it. Nothing to do with meditation the way the books describe it. And nothing to do with manifesting in the way the internet keeps selling it. What I am about to share with you tonight involves two specific actions so counterintuitive, so contrary to everything you have been conditioned to do that when you perform them, something in the fabric of reality itself has no choice but to respond. Not metaphorically, not eventually, but with the kind of immediacy that will make you question everything you thought you knew about how this universe actually works. And I want to be clear about something before we go any further. When I say heaven, I am not pointing upward. I am not referencing a place beyond the clouds where a figure sits on a throne deciding who gets what. The word heaven, in its oldest roots, across nearly every tradition that used it, referred to a dimension of coherence, a layer of reality operating at a frequency so refined, so organized, that when a human being managed to touch it, even briefly, the effects looked like miracles to everyone watching. But they were not miracles. They were physics. Physics that most of the world has not caught up to yet. Tonight, you are going to catch up. Let me begin with something that happened in a laboratory in 1998 at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel. A team of physicists conducted what has become one of the most quietly revolutionary experiments in the history of quantum mechanics. They wanted to test something that had been theorized for decades, but never directly demonstrated with this level of precision. The question was simple. Does the act of observation change the behavior of matter at the subatomic level? Not influence it, not nudge it, change it fundamentally. They set up a device that fired electrons through a barrier with two slits in it, the classic double-slit arrangement. When no one observed which slit the electrons passed through, the electrons behaved like waves. They created an interference pattern on the detector screen, the kind of pattern you see when two ripples meet in water. But the moment the researchers activated a detector near one of the slits, a detector that simply registered which path the electron took, the interference pattern vanished. The electrons stopped behaving like waves and started behaving like particles. Discrete, localized, definite. Think about what that means. The electron did not change because someone pushed it. No force was applied. No energy was added. The only thing that changed was that someone was watching. Consciousness, the simple act of directed attention, altered the physical behavior of matter. Now most people hear about this experiment, and they nod and they move on. They file it under interesting science facts and never let it touch the way they actually live. But if you sit with this result long enough, it begins to dismantle something. It begins to dismantle the assumption that you are a passive observer in a fixed universe. Because if an electron responds to observation, if matter itself shifts its behavior based on whether awareness is directed at it, then the question you should be asking is not whether consciousness affects reality. The experiment already answered that. The question is, what happens when you learn to direct your consciousness with precision, with coherence, and with the two specific actions that the deepest traditions and the most advanced physics both point toward? That is what tonight is about. The first action is one that will feel almost offensive to your rational mind. It is the act of deliberate, sustained gratitude for something that has not happened yet. Not hope, not optimism, not positive thinking. Gratitude. Present tense, embodied, physiologically real gratitude for an outcome that does not yet exist in your observable reality. Now, before you dismiss this, let me explain why this is not wishful thinking and why it is not delusion. Let me take you into the neuroscience first, and then into the physics, because both of them converge on the same extraordinary conclusion. In 2015, researchers at the University of California, Los Angeles, published a study examining what happens in the human brain during sustained states of gratitude. Using functional MRI scanning, they observed that when subjects experienced genuine gratitude, not performed gratitude, not the kind you recite because someone told you to keep a gratitude journal, but the kind that arises as a felt sense in the body, specific regions of the brain activated in a pattern that was distinct from any other positive emotion they tested. The medial prefrontal cortex lit up. The anterior cingulate cortex engaged. But what was most remarkable was what happened in the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is the master regulator of your autonomic nervous system. It controls your heart rate, your digestion, your sleep cycles, your hormonal cascades, your stress response. When genuine gratitude activates the hypothalamus, it does not just make you feel good. It changes the electrochemical environment of your entire body. Cortisol drops. DHEA rises. Heart rate variability increases, which is a direct measure of coherence between your heart and your brain. And this is where it gets strange. The HeartMath Institute, which has spent over 25 years studying the electromagnetic field generated by the human heart, has demonstrated something that most people have never heard. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond your body. This is not metaphor. This is measured with magnetometers. And the coherence of that field, the degree to which it is organized versus chaotic, changes based on your emotional state. When you are in fear, frustration, or anxiety, the field becomes erratic, disordered, noisy. When you are in genuine gratitude or appreciation, the field becomes coherent. It organizes into smooth, sine wave-like patterns that are measurably different from every other emotional state. If this is opening something in you, take a moment and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss what comes next. Now let me continue. Here is the part that matters. A coherent electromagnetic signal carries information more efficiently than an incoherent one. This is basic signal theory. It is why a radio station transmitting a clean signal reaches farther than one transmitting static. Your heart is a transmitter, and the coherence of its signal determines how far and how clearly your internal state broadcasts into the field around you. Now bring the quantum experiment back in. If observation affects matter, and if your heart is generating a coherent electromagnetic field that extends beyond your body, and if that field's coherence is determined by your emotional state, then what you are feeling is not just a private experience. It is a broadcast. It is a signal being sent into the quantum field, the same field in which particles respond to observation, the same field in which matter has been demonstrated to change its behavior based on the presence of awareness. So when I say gratitude for something that has not happened yet, I am not asking you to pretend. I am asking you to generate a coherent signal. I am asking you to become a clear transmitter. And I am asking you to do it in a very specific way that most people never learn. Because most people practice gratitude as a thought. They think the words, "I am grateful." They make a list. They say it out loud. And nothing changes. Nothing changes because the signal was never coherent. The thought was in the mind, but the body was still broadcasting fear. The words said one thing, but the hypothalamus was still running the old program, still pumping cortisol, still generating the erratic, noisy field of someone who is surviving, not someone who has already received. The first action, the one that shocks the field, is to close the gap between the thought and the body. To feel the gratitude not as an idea, but as a warmth in the center of your chest. To let your breathing slow, to let your shoulders drop, to allow the muscles around your eyes to soften the way they soften when you see someone you love walking toward you. To let your body believe, at the cellular level, that what you are grateful for is already here. Not coming, here. This is not visualization. Visualization stays in the mind. This is embodiment. And embodiment changes the signal. There is a concept in physics called retrocausality. It is controversial, but it is not fringe. It has been explored seriously by physicists like Hugh Price at Cambridge and Yakir Aharomov, one of the most respected quantum theorists alive. Retrocausality suggests that events in the future can influence events in the present, not through time travel, through the way quantum states are connected across time in ways that do not obey the linear sequence we experience at the macroscopic level. The delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, first performed by Yoonho Kim and colleagues in 1999, demonstrated something that still unsettles physicists. In this experiment, a measurement made after a photon had already been detected could retroactively change whether that photon had behaved as a wave or a particle. Read that again. A choice made later changed what had already happened earlier. The future influenced the past. Now, I am not claiming that gratitude literally sends signals backward through time. But I am pointing to something that the physics makes room for. If the boundary between past, present, and future is not as rigid as we assumed, then the emotional state you occupy right now is not just a response to what has already happened. It is a creative act. It is participating in what will happen. And if you occupy the emotional state of already having received, if your body is generating the coherent field of someone whose prayer has been answered, you are not fooling yourself. You are collapsing a wave function. You are selecting, through coherent observation, one possibility out of the superposition of all possibilities. This is the first bizarre action. Feel the future in your body now, not as hope, as completion. And I know what the mind does with this. The mind says, but it has not happened. The mind says, this is dishonest. The mind says, I cannot feel grateful for something I do not have. And the mind is right from its perspective. The mind operates in linear time. The mind catalogs what is and what is not. The mind is a brilliant instrument for navigating the surface of reality. But the mind is not the only instrument you have. And the surface of reality is not where creation happens. Creation happens in the field. And the field does not respond to what is true on the surface. It responds to what is coherent in the signal. Let me give you a precise way to practice this. Not a vague instruction, a specific protocol. Tonight, before you sleep, you are going to lie down and close your eyes. You are going to place one hand on your chest, over your heart. You are going to breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 6. Hold for a count of 2, and exhale through your mouth for a count of 8. You are going to do this for 3 full cycles, and as you do it, your only job is to feel the warmth of your hand against your chest. Nothing else, just that contact, that warmth. After 3 cycles, you are going to bring to mind one specific thing you want to experience in your life. Not a vague wish, something specific. And instead of asking for it, instead of hoping for it, instead of visualizing it as a future event, you are going to feel what it would feel like in your body if it had already happened, if it were already done. If you were lying in bed at the end of the day, it arrived, and you were feeling the quiet, bone-deep satisfaction of it being real, not the excitement of it arriving. If you've been doing everything right and reality still hasn't shifted, this is the one thing nobody has told you. You meditate, you visualize, you affirm every single morning, and still, somehow, the life you're calling in stays just out of reach. It is not your effort. It is not your mindset. There is something underneath all of it, quietly running the show. I am hosting a free live transmission where I walk you through exactly what that is and how to finally shift it at the root. The link to register is in the description below. Save your seat. The moment you see this, you will understand why you could not see it before. The calm after. The settled gratitude of something that is simply part of your life now. Stay there. Let the feeling spread. Let it move from your chest into your belly. Let it soften your jaw. Let it relax your hands. Let your body believe it. Not your mind. Your body. This is the first action. And if you do it with genuine coherence, even for 5 minutes, you will notice something. You will notice that your body does not know the difference between a real experience and a vividly felt one. Your hypothalamus does not check the external world before responding. It responds to the signal it receives from your emotional state. And when that signal says complete, safe, grateful, received, the entire chemical cascade of your body shifts. Cortisol drops, serotonin rises, your heart field organizes, and you begin broadcasting a signal that is radically different from the one you have been sending for years. I want to pause here and ask you something. Have you ever had a moment, even a brief one, where you felt something shift inside you before anything changed on the outside? A moment where your body relaxed into a knowing that your mind could not explain. Tell me about that moment in the comments. I want to hear what that felt like for you. That is the first action. Now let me tell you about the second one, because the second one is the one that truly shocks the system. The second action is surrender, but not the kind of surrender you think. Most people, when they hear the word surrender, think of giving up. They think of defeat. They think of resignation, of throwing your hands in the air and saying, "Fine, I will take whatever comes." That is not surrender. That is collapse. And collapse does not generate coherence. Collapse generates the signal of someone who has been broken by circumstance, and the field responds to that signal accordingly. It gives you more of what broke you. Real surrender is something entirely different. Real surrender is the deliberate release of your attachment to how and when. Not your attachment to the outcome, your attachment to the mechanism and the timeline. And this distinction is everything. Because most people who try to work with consciousness, who try to use these principles, fail at exactly this point. They generate the gratitude. They feel it in their body. They get the coherence going. And then they open their eyes and immediately start trying to figure out how it is going to happen. They start scanning their environment for evidence. They start checking the timeline. They start calculating. And in that moment, the coherence shatters, because calculating is not the same frequency as receiving. Scanning for evidence is not the same signal as knowing. Think about it in terms of the double-slit experiment again. When the detector was placed at the slit, when the system tried to determine the path, the wave function collapsed into a single particle. One outcome. One path. Limited. But when no detector was present, when the system was allowed to remain unobserved in terms of mechanism, the electron went through both slits simultaneously. It existed in superposition. All paths were available. When you try to figure out how your desired outcome will arrive, you are placing a detector at the slit. You are collapsing the superposition of all possible delivery mechanisms into the one or two you can imagine with your conscious mind. And your conscious mind, brilliant as it is, can only imagine possibilities based on your past experience. It can only conceive of pathways it has seen before. But the field has access to pathways you have never imagined, connections you could not predict, timing you could not engineer, coincidences that are not coincidences at all, but the natural behavior of a coherent system organizing itself. Surrender, real surrender, is removing the detector. It is allowing the wave function of possibility to remain uncollapsed. It is saying, with your whole body, I know what I have received. I do not need to know how it arrives, and I release my grip on the timeline. This is not passive. This is the most active, most courageous thing a human being can do. Because every instinct you have, every survival mechanism that has kept your ancestors alive for hundreds of thousands of years, screams at you to control, to plan, to grip, to monitor, to manage. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped cluster of neurons deep in your temporal lobe that processes threat, does not distinguish between a genuine physical danger and the uncertainty of not knowing how something will happen. To your amygdala, uncertainty is threat, and threat triggers the same cascade: cortisol, adrenaline, shallow breathing, contracted muscles, that destroys the coherence you just built. So the second action is not just a spiritual concept. It is a neurological override. It is the deliberate, conscious decision to keep your body in a state of coherent calm while your survival system is screaming at you to take control. And when you do this, something extraordinary happens. There is a phenomenon in nonlinear dynamics, in the mathematics of complex systems, called emergence. Emergence is what happens when a system reaches a certain threshold of coherence and suddenly organizes itself into a pattern that could not have been predicted from its individual components. Water molecules do not contain the pattern of a snowflake, but when conditions reach a certain threshold, snowflakes emerge. Individual neurons do not contain consciousness, but when they reach a certain threshold of organized interaction, consciousness emerges. The pattern was not in the parts. It was in the coherence between them. When you hold gratitude in your body and simultaneously release your grip on mechanism and timeline, you are creating the conditions for emergence in your own life. You are generating a coherent signal and then refusing to collapse it into the limited pathways your mind can see. You are allowing the field to organize a response that is beyond what you could have engineered. And this is what traditions throughout history have called the response of heaven. It is not a reward from a deity. It is emergence. It is the natural behavior of a coherent system when interference is removed. Let me tell you about an experiment that most people have never heard of. Conducted by William Broad at the Mind Science Foundation in San Antonio, Texas, across a series of studies in the 1980s and 1990s. Broad was investigating whether focused human intention could influence biological systems at a distance. Not machines, not random number generators, living systems. In one series of experiments, he had subjects direct calming intention toward another person's electrodermal activity, the electrical conductance of their skin, which is a direct measure of autonomic nervous system arousal. The subjects were in separate rooms. There was no physical contact, no communication, no sensory channel between them. And yet, when one person directed coherent, calm, focused intention toward the other person's electrodermal activity changed, measurably, repeatedly. Across dozens of trials with statistical significance that far exceeded chance. What Broad found was that the effectiveness of the influence correlated with the coherence of the sender's state. The calmer, more focused, more internally organized the sender was, the more powerful the effect on the distant person's physiology. Agitation, effort, strain, trying hard, these reduced the effect. Calm, coherent, surrendered focus amplified it. This is the mechanism underneath the second action. When you surrender, when you release the effortful grip and settle into coherent knowing, you are not doing less. You are doing more. You are removing the noise that was jamming your own signal. You are becoming a clean channel. And a clean channel does not have to shout. It transmits. Now here is where these two actions combine into something that the traditions called shocking heaven. And I want to be precise about why that language exists. In the Taoist tradition, there is a concept called Wu Wei, which is usually translated as non-action or effortless action. But this translation misses something critical. Wu Wei is not the absence of action. It is action that arises from such complete alignment with the natural order that it appears effortless. A river does not try to flow downhill. It simply flows. But the power of that flow can carve canyons through solid rock over time. Wu Wei is the human equivalent of that flow, and it is achieved not by doing more, but by removing the internal resistance that makes action effortful. The two actions I have described tonight, embodied gratitude and coherent surrender, are the two components of Wu Wei applied to the relationship between human consciousness and the field of possibility. Gratitude sets the signal. Surrender removes the interference. Together, they create a state that the Taoists would have recognized immediately, a state of such profound alignment that reality reorganizes around you without your having to force it. And the reason the traditions used language like shocking heaven or forcing heaven to respond is not because heaven is reluctant. It is because the response is so immediate, so disproportionate to the apparent effort involved, that it shocks the person experiencing it. You did not do anything visible. You did not hustle. You did not strategize. You did not fight. You lay down. You felt gratitude for something that had not happened. You released your grip on how and when, and then something moved. Something shifted. A door opened that you did not push. A person appeared that you did not summon. A resource materialized that you did not earn in any conventional sense. It shocks you because it violates every model of reality you were given. You were taught that results require proportional effort, that outcomes must be earned through struggle, that the universe is indifferent and you must claw your way through it. And then you lie down, you generate coherence, you surrender control, and the universe responds as if it had been waiting for you to stop fighting it. Because it was. Let me take you deeper into why this works by examining something from the physics of resonance. If you have ever watched a video of someone shattering a wine glass with their voice, you have seen resonance in action. The singer does not throw anything at the glass. They do not touch it. They produce a sound wave at the exact frequency that matches the natural resonant frequency of the glass. And because the frequencies match, energy transfers with extraordinary efficiency. The glass absorbs more and more energy until it cannot hold its structure and it shatters. Now reverse the metaphor. Instead of shattering something, imagine building something. Imagine that the field of possibility, the quantum field, the implicate order that David Bohm described, has a resonant frequency for every possible configuration of reality. Every possible version of your life exists as a standing wave pattern in the field. And the one that manifests, the one that becomes your actual experience, is the one that matches the frequency you are broadcasting. When you are broadcasting fear, you resonate with configurations that contain what you fear. When you are broadcasting lack, you resonate with configurations that reflect scarcity. Not because the universe is punishing you, because resonance is impersonal. It is physics. The tuning fork does not care what frequency you are vibrating at. It simply responds to a match. So when you lie down tonight and you generate the embodied feeling of gratitude for something that has already been received, you are tuning your frequency to match the configuration of reality in which that thing exists. And when you surrender the how and the when, you are removing the dissonant frequencies, the worry, the doubt, the need to control that were jamming the resonance. You are becoming a clean signal at the exact frequency of the reality you want to inhabit. And when signal and frequency match, energy transfers, effortlessly, inevitably. The way a tuning fork on the other side of a room begins to hum when you strike the one that matches it. This is not magic. This is coherence. Now I want to address something directly, because if you have been listening carefully, a question has been forming in you. The question is this: if it is this simple, why does it not work for everyone? Why do millions of people practice gratitude and visualization and surrender and still feel stuck? The answer is in a word I have used several times tonight, but have not yet fully unpacked. The word is coherence. And coherence is not the same as intention. You can intend something with your conscious mind, while your subconscious broadcasts the opposite. You can think grateful thoughts while your body is locked in the posture of someone bracing for impact. You can say the words, "I surrender," while your jaw is clenched. Your shoulders are up around your ears, and your breathing is shallow and fast. And when the conscious signal says one thing, and the subconscious signal says another, they cancel each other out. Like two waves meeting out of phase. Destructive interference. The net signal is zero. This is why most people's attempts at manifestation, at prayer, at working with consciousness, produce nothing. Not because the principles are wrong, because the signal is incoherent. The mind says yes, while the body says no. The words say, "I trust," while the nervous system says, "I am in danger." And the field, which responds to the total signal, not just the conscious part, receives static. Noise. Nothing it can organize around. Coherence means that every layer of your being is broadcasting the same message. Your thoughts, your emotions, your body, your nervous system, your breath, your posture, your heart field, all of them aligned, all of them saying the same thing. And when that happens, even for a few minutes, the signal is so clear so powerful, so unmistakable, that the field has no choice but to respond. Not because you forced it, because coherence is the language the field speaks, and you finally spoke it fluently. If what we have been exploring about signals and coherence is resonating with you, there is something deeper I want to share. Have you spent years chasing manifestation, visualizing, affirming, raising your vibration, only to watch the same patterns repeat? Every traditional method assumes the same thing, that you are separate from what you want. That separation was never real. You were chasing a signal you were already broadcasting. Beyond the frequencies, a quantum guide to consciousness mastery walks through all 9 frequencies, from the dense transmissions trapping you through the ascending currents, to the master frequencies where consciousness becomes the field. Every method you tried sent a signal outward. This one tunes the signal you already are. Every day you delay, your nervous system broadcasts the same old signal, and breaking free gets harder. So move on it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now, let us return to the practice of building that coherence from within. Here is what I want to know from you. What is the one thing you have been gripping the tightest? The one outcome where you have been trying to control every detail of how and when it arrives? Name it in the comments. Not because I need to know, but because the act of naming it begins the process of releasing it. This is why I said these 2 actions are bizarre. They are bizarre because they go against everything your conditioning taught you. Your conditioning taught you that to get something, you must do something. That effort produces results. That control is safety. That the harder you grip, the more likely you are to hold on. But coherence does not come from gripping. Coherence comes from aligning. And aligning often looks, from the outside, like doing nothing. It looks like lying still. It looks like breathing slowly. It looks like feeling something that has not happened yet. It looks, to the conditioned mind, like delusion, like laziness, like giving up. And that is exactly why it works, because the moment you stop performing the actions your conditioning demands, the moment you stop generating the noise of effort and control and fear-driven doing, the signal clears. And a clear signal in a responsive field is the most powerful force available to a human being. Let me give you the second practice now. The practice of surrender. And again, I want to be specific, not vague. After you have completed the gratitude practice I described earlier, after you have spent 5 minutes feeling the warmth of completion in your chest, you are going to do something that will feel uncomfortable. You are going to consciously release the image. You are going to let go of the specific picture of what you were grateful for. Not because it does not matter, because you have already transmitted the signal, and now you need to release the attachment to the form. Here is how. You are going to imagine that the feeling in your chest, that warmth, that completion, is a glowing sphere of light. And you are going to, with your exhale, gently push that sphere upward and outward, as if you are releasing a lantern into the night sky. Watch it rise. Watch it drift. And as it moves away from you, feel in your body the sensation of release. Feel your hands open. Feel your belly soften. Feel the subtle unclenching in your solar plexus, that place just below your sternum where you hold your need to control. As the sphere rises, say internally, not out loud, just in the quiet of your own awareness, I have sent my signal. I release the how. I release the when. I trust the coherence, and then let it go. Let the image dissolve. Let your mind go quiet. Let your body sink into the bed as if the mattress is absorbing all the tension you have been carrying. And if your mind tries to grab the image back, if it tries to start calculating how or when, just notice that. Do not fight it. Simply notice it the way you would notice a cloud passing across an otherwise clear sky. It is there. It moves. It passes. You remain. This is the second action, and it is the one that most people cannot do. Not because it is complicated, because it requires trusting something larger than your own mind. It requires believing in your body that a signal sent with coherence will be received, that you do not need to stand over it and manage it, that the field is not indifferent, that the same intelligence that grows a fetus from a single cell, that coordinates the rotation of galaxies, that keeps your heart beating 60 to 100 times a minute without your conscious involvement, that this intelligence can also handle the logistics of your desire. You do not tell your heart how to beat. You do not instruct your lungs how to extract oxygen. You do not manage the billions of chemical reactions happening in your body every second. And yet they happen. With precision, with timing, with an intelligence so vast that the entire history of human engineering has not been able to replicate a single living cell. That intelligence is not separate from you. It is you. It is the deeper you. The you that exists beneath the personality, beneath the conditioning, beneath the fear. And when you surrender the how and the when, you are not giving your power away. You are giving it back. Back to the part of you that actually knows how to create. The part that has been creating your heartbeat and your breath and your cellular regeneration every second of your life without your conscious mind's involvement. The conscious mind's job was never to create. It was to choose, to select the signal, to set the frequency, and then to get out of the way. These two actions, embodied gratitude and coherent surrender, performed together, create what I can only describe as a vacuum in the field. Physics tells us that nature abhors a vacuum. When you create a space, a coherent, clean, open space, the field rushes in to fill it. Not with random noise, with organized response, with the pattern that matches your signal. And this is what the ancient traditions meant when they said that heaven responds. They were not describing a transaction with a deity. They were describing a law, as impersonal and reliable as gravity, as precise and predictable as resonance. You generate coherence. You release interference. The field organizes every time, not sometimes, not for special people, not for those who have earned it through sufficient suffering. Every time coherence is achieved and interference is removed, the field responds. It is its nature, just as it is the nature of water to flow downhill, just as it is the nature of a struck tuning fork to vibrate, just as it is the nature of an electron to respond to observation. The only variable is your coherence. And coherence is not talent. It is not luck. It is not spiritual advancement. It is practice. It is the willingness to lie down, to breathe, to feel, to align, and to release. Night after night. Not because you are performing a ritual, because you are training your nervous system to hold a frequency it was never taught to hold. Your nervous system was trained by a world that runs on fear. From the moment you were born, you were immersed in signals of danger, scarcity, competition, inadequacy. Your amygdala was calibrated by a culture that profits from your anxiety. Your baseline frequency, the one your body defaults to when you are not consciously choosing, is almost certainly some version of not enough. Not safe enough, not good enough, not doing enough. And that frequency, broadcast through your heart field 24 hours a day, is what the field has been responding to. Not because it is punishing you, because it is matching you. It has been giving you the reality that resonates with your signal. And your signal, until now, has been the signal of someone who is afraid. Tonight, you change the signal. Not by fighting the fear, not by denying it, not by covering it with affirmations that your body does not believe, but by generating a new signal that is more coherent than the old one. By feeling in your body the reality of completion, and by releasing, with your whole being, the need to control how that completion arrives. 2 actions, both done lying still, both done in silence, both done in the dark, where no one can see you, where there is no performance, where there is nothing to prove. Just you and the field, just your signal and its response. I want to return to something I mentioned earlier about David Bohm, because his work provides perhaps the most elegant framework for understanding what happens when these 2 actions are performed together. Bohm was a theoretical physicist who worked with Einstein and who spent the latter part of his career developing a model of reality that most of mainstream physics was not ready for. He called it the implicate order. Bohm proposed that what we see, what we experience as physical reality, is what he called the explicate order. It is the unfolded surface of something much deeper. Beneath the explicate order, enfolded within it, is the implicate order, a domain of undivided wholeness where everything is connected to everything else. In the implicate order, there is no separation between the observer and the observed. There is no gap between intention and manifestation. There is no distance between your signal and the field's response. These distinctions only appear in the explicate order on the surface, where things look separate and sequential. When you generate embodied gratitude, you are reaching down into the implicate order. You are touching the level of reality where the thing you desire and the you who desires it are not separate. Where the feeling of having received is not a simulation, but a direct contact with a layer of reality where it is already so. And when you surrender the how and the when, you are allowing the implicate order to unfold into the explicate in its own way, through pathways that your conscious mind, operating only on the surface, could never have designed. This is not theory for Bohm. He arrived at this through rigorous physics, through his work on plasma behavior, where he observed that individual electrons in a plasma moved not as separate particles, but as a coordinated whole, as if the plasma itself were alive, as if some deeper order were organizing the individual movements into a coherent collective behavior. He called this the quantum potential, an invisible field of information that guides the behavior of matter from a deeper level. Your coherent signal, generated through embodied gratitude and released through surrender, is your way of communicating with the quantum potential. You are not shouting at the universe. You are speaking its language, the language of coherence, the language of wholeness, the language that operates beneath the surface where things look broken and separate and difficult. And when you speak that language, even for a few minutes, the response is not subtle. It is not gradual. It is immediate in the implicate order, even if it takes time to unfold into the explicate. The shift has already happened the moment your signal achieves coherence. What follows in your visible life is just the unfolding, just the implicate becoming explicate, just the seed becoming the tree. And this is why I said at the beginning that these two actions force heaven to respond. Not because you are overpowering anything, not because you are manipulating a cosmic system, but because coherence in a responsive field is not a request. It is a cause, and causes have effects, inevitably, without exception, without negotiation. The only question is whether you will do it, whether you will lie down tonight and feel gratitude for something that has not yet appeared in your visible life. Whether you will generate that feeling not in your mind, but in your chest, your belly, your hands, your breath. Whether you will hold it long enough for your heart field to organize around it, and then whether you will release it. Whether you will let go of the how and the when, and trust that a signal sent with coherence into a responsive field will be received and answered. Not because you deserve it, not because you have earned it, because coherence is the mechanism. And the mechanism does not care about your history, your mistakes, your doubts, or your worthiness. It cares about your signal. That is all it has ever cared about. Tonight, send a different signal. Let me walk you through the complete practice one more time, so that when you close your eyes, you know exactly what to do. Lie down. Place one hand on your heart. Begin breathing. 6 counts in through the nose. Hold for 2. 8 counts out through the mouth. Do this 3 times. Feel only the warmth of your hand on your chest. Now bring to mind the specific thing you want to experience. Do not see it as a future event. Feel it as a present reality. Feel the gratitude of having already received it. Not the excitement, the calm after, the quiet knowing, the deep, settled warmth of something that is simply part of your life now. Let that feeling spread through your body. Let it soften your face. Let it open your hands. Let it slow your breathing even further. Stay here for 5 minutes. Let your body believe it. Then, gently, imagine the feeling as a sphere of warm light in your chest. With your exhale, release it upward. Watch it rise. Feel your hands open wider. Feel your belly release. Say internally, I have sent my signal. I release the how. I release the when. I trust the coherence. Let the sphere dissolve into the darkness behind your eyelids. Let your mind go quiet. If thoughts come, let them pass like clouds. You are not your thoughts right now. You are the sky they move through. Rest there. Fall asleep there if you can. Let the last thing your nervous system registers before sleep be the frequency of completion, not the frequency of wanting. And when you wake tomorrow, do not look for evidence. This is crucial. Do not scan your environment for signs that it is working. That scanning is the detector at the slit. It collapses the superposition. It reduces infinite pathways to the 1 or 2 your mind can imagine. Instead, wake up and simply live. Move through your day with the quiet knowing of someone who has sent a clear signal and trusts the response. Not performing confidence, resting in coherence. The evidence will come. Not because you hunted for it, because coherence creates emergence. And emergence, by definition, arrives in forms you did not predict. 2 actions. Embodied gratitude. Coherent surrender. Performed in the dark. Performed in silence. Performed in the space between waking and sleeping. where the conscious mind loosens its grip and the deeper intelligence that has been running your biology since before you were born can finally hear your signal without interference. This is not something you do once. This is something you become. Night after night, the practice deepens. Night after night, the coherence strengthens. Night after night, the gap between your conscious signal and your subconscious broadcast narrows. Until there is no gap, until every layer of your being is saying the same thing, until you are so coherent that the field does not just respond, it reorganizes around you. Consider coming back to this video each night before you sleep, letting it guide you into that state of coherence until the practice becomes part of who you are. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who is stuck in the grip of trying to force and control their way to what they want, send this to them. When you share these principles, you reinforce the coherence in your own signal while opening a doorway for someone else. And that creates a ripple in the field that amplifies what both of you are calling in. And that is when your life begins to look like something you could not have planned. When doors open that you did not know existed. When people appear carrying exactly what you need. When timing aligns in ways that your rational mind cannot explain. Not because the universe suddenly started caring about you, because you finally stopped jamming your own signal. You were always the transmitter. You were always the observer whose attention shapes matter. You were always the one the field was waiting for. You just did not know how to send a clean signal. Now you do 2 actions. Tonight, in the dark, in the silence, where no one is watching except the field itself, and the field is always watching. If this reached something in you tonight, if you felt even a flicker of recognition, not in your mind, but in your chest, then you already know this is not new information. It is a remembering, something you knew before the world taught you to forget it. Stay here. Come back tomorrow night. Let the coherence build. And if you want to mark this moment, leave a word in the comments. One word that captures what you felt. Not for me. For you, so that when you come back and read it, you remember the signal you sent tonight. The field remembers too.